I think that's a great place for us to start. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker who's going to do some butt kicking and telling us about her story, but also telling us about how she built her business. So let's put our hands together for the wonderful Catherine Watkin.
Thank you, Robert. Hello, good morning. So I'm Catherine Watkin. My business is called Selling from the Heart. Oh, I've got two microphones on. It's a bit echoey, I think. So I'm Catherine Watkin. Some of you already know me. For a long time, for 3 years, I actually did the Animas Discovery Days. So I know that there's lots of you who know me originally through that time. I am an Animite. Back in the day, I was a Smartie. And then I got transitioned and transformed, actually, since it's coaching, I got transformed into an Animite. So I'm very much part of this community. And Nick's asked me to come here today to talk to you about what it takes to build a six-figure coaching business. And it's a really big ask, because what does it take to succeed in a six-figure coaching business? What is a six-figure coaching business? Do you even want a six-figure coaching business? And how to succeed? Well, it's been a 5-year journey for me of learning out how to succeed and survive in that. So I just want to check. I've got like a double feedback coming here. Is the sound a bit funny for people? Yes. Okay. I guess that's being sorted out in the. Okay, and if anyone needs to come up and quickly adjust me, I'm quite open to you coming up and fiddling with me while I stand here and talk. Not all of you. I meant just like one or just the film guy, not all of you. So anyway, suddenly it sounds a bit better. So I'm an Animite. So I trained with a school, and I finished my training in January 2011. So it's 5. I was just standing over there thinking, 11, 12, 13, 5 years. Yes, I feel that I have grown I've grown a business that I love, and I think this is more important than, yes, okay, so there's this six-figure turnover, but it's like, well, so what? What does that mean? To me, what I wanted was a business that I loved, a business that I find deeply, deeply fulfilling, where I get to change lives on a daily basis, change lives of people all over the world, and I make a good living from that as well. But that was really what I wanted. I didn't set out to grow a business of a certain size, but I had a mission, I had a calling. And I think, if I was to start by talking about what does it take, I would say, first of all, it takes starting at the beginning. How you get there is you start at the beginning. So I was a coach in training, and I wanted to get paying clients. And I was being coached at one of the coaching sessions by, when you do the coaching, when you're in training. And my thing to do that week, my action was to go away and get a paying client. And I'd gone home with the intention of posting on Gumtree to get a client to pay me £25 an hour. And the days were rolling by, and I wasn't doing it, and I knew that I was going back to my next weekend in a month's time, and that was for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and I had to sit down and sort of coach myself. Come on, Catherine, what's going on? Why can't you post this advert for a client to pay you £25 an hour? And I had to coach myself for what would feel comfortable. And I posted an advert, and I brought on my very first coaching client who paid me £10 an hour, because that was the place I was comfortable starting at. And then there was a point where I was charging about £40 a session, and I knew that really I should be charging about 75. But I couldn't imagine that I would ever be ready or ever feel confident enough to charge £75 for a coaching session. If I was to charge by the hour now, which I don't, the minimum that you could work with me for is a day or a 12-month program. But if I was to work with you one-to-one for an hour, I would now charge you £500. And I'm really congruent with that. But I started at the beginning. And I think that what I see often is people trying to skip the beginning, like trying to skip the bit where they're just starting and they're not confident yet, and they're still practicing, and they haven't quite learned about business, they haven't worked out the sales piece, and they haven't really got their business model sorted, and they haven't learned about themselves yet, and all the other things that I might talk about today. So wherever you're going with this business, wherever you are at right now, that's okay, because you have to start at the beginning. And so Nick says, come and talk about a six-figure coaching business. But I want you to know that in my first full year as a coach, my turnover was £420. Okay. And in my second full year as a coach, my turnover was £7,000. It was my third full year in my coaching business before I did £120,000. It was not an overnight thing for me. Now, we're all different, and some people are much more gung-ho. And I think particularly, and I know that everyone's going to have their different journey, but I do find that particularly for women, we tend to be a bit less gung-ho. The men among you do have a little bit more of a, boom, I'm just going to go do this thing. I'm just going to go out there and do this thing and make it happen. And us women, we take a little longer. We take a little longer to get comfortable with things. It's not necessarily a gung-ho, I'm going to get out there tomorrow and start charging £10,000 when I just qualified yesterday. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, as I said, is about this whole, what is a six-figure business? Because what you find is that you start out as a coach and you're getting clients, you're setting up your practice, and then something dawns on you, which is, okay, so the clients are not walking up the path and knocking on my door. Didn't realise that wasn't going to happen. Phone's not ringing. And it dawns on you, okay, it's not enough to train as a coach. If I want a business here, I have to learn how to market my business and I have to learn how to sell. And so now you get into this entire very confusing and overwhelming world, lots of it online, where other coaches and trainers are telling you what your aspirations should be. And one of the things that gets bandied about a lot in the coaching industry is the six-figure business. You see it all the time, don't you? Come and train with me and you can have a six-figure business. Come and do this course and have a six-figure coaching practice. What the heck is a six-figure coaching business? Like, six figures means that there's six numbers in the turnover. So this could be £100,000 a year, and it could be £999,000 a year. They're both six-figure businesses. They are vastly, vastly different. Any one of you could have a six-figure business from home, very comfortably, with maybe, you could all quite conceivably have a six-figure business with just 10 clients a year, just you running it all yourself from home. A business that is $999,000 a year is a completely different animal, and to be honest, not one that I understand myself, because I'm down at the lower scale. So, and I think I just wanted to sort of blast the myth that a six-figure business is automatically a good thing to have, because what your turnover is and what you take home as a coach are completely different things. And so you could have a six-figure business, you could have your 100,000 turnover business. But if you've got high sales and marketing costs, high cost of delivery, team, if your expenditure is out of control, you could have a six-figure turnover business officially and actually have no money at all. And there are people out there who market themselves as six-figure coaches and they have no money at all. And so there's not like this automatic, it's a good thing. And what I'd rather say to you, and I will share with you the journey, because growing a business of that size is a very different animal to a smaller coaching business. But I'd rather encourage you to say, right, what is it that you want? What is it that you want from your coaching business? Is it that you want to work with a small handful of clients, work very deeply with them, do work that's very fulfilling to you, be able to go on holiday a couple of times a year, have enough spare that you can put some money aside for your future? That might be what you want. It might be that when you add up what you really want from your life, that 40,000 a year would be very, very nice, thank you very much, and if you can just help me get that from my coaching business, I will be over the moon. It might be that you want a £25,000 a year turnover coaching business where you work part-time. It isn't automatically that bigger and higher turnover is better. So, however, my business turned over, I don't know, and I'm going to talk a little bit about business models. One of the things I'm not going to be doing today is I'm not going to be talking about the how. So it was interesting that two people, when they answered Robert's questions, said that they're interested to hear about the how. But I have got time at the end to take questions, and if anybody wants to ask me questions about the how of how I do my business, I'm happy to do that. But that's not really what I'm here for today. It's more about, talking about, the qualities and the things that it takes to grow this business. So the other thing that I think it's important to have is to know yourself, like to really know yourself and know what your strengths are and know what you love to do. And for me, this was what changed everything, because I started out, qualified from Animas, qualified coach, and I got a bit entangled in that whole online marketing world. which is not to say there's anything wrong with it, but at that time in particular, there was a lot of noise about, this is the way to create a successful business. And I got caught up in going on online marketing seminars, bought online marketing courses, sat at home, created websites, started learning how to drive traffic and blogging and social media. And within about 3 months, I was as depressed as you could ever be. Right? And I went to a talk and I heard somebody speak, somebody who became one of my business mentors, and she talked about a system called wealth dynamics. Who here has heard of wealth dynamics? Who here has never heard of it? Okay, great. Nearly all of you. This is really exciting. I'll try not to go off on a tangent and talk about wealth dynamics. But wealth dynamics is a personality profiling system for business owners. And it's designed by a guy called Roger Hamilton. And I really recommend, if you're not familiar with it, go and look into it, because it helps you understand your strengths in business. And Roger's theory is that if you want to be successful in business, you need to play to your strengths and not worry about your weaknesses, like get other people in to fill the gaps for your weaknesses. And I realized that learned and realized that I'm a star profile. So as a star profile, I am in my absolute element. If you put me on a stage and give me a bunch of people to talk to, in my element. I am in my element training a room full of people. I'm actually in my element running webinars as well, because I've got an audience. But if you ask me to create a product and pre-record it, I just go, and all the energy goes out of my voice and it would be really flat. And I'm in my element in a room chatting to people and mixing with people and connecting, because I'm a star profile. I've got a lot of blaze energy. And the last thing in the world that I should be doing is going anywhere near online marketing. And for me, one of the reasons I have a 6-figure business is because I do not do online marketing. Like, I don't do all the things that I don't do social media, SEO, driving traffic. I blog, but I blog in order to add value to my community. Now, I'm not saying that's right for you, because you might be on the opposite end of that wealth dynamics profile to me, and you should be doing your online marketing. But understanding what your strengths are and focusing on building a business around your strengths is one of the most important things that you can do to grow your business, so that you're not like pushing through treacle. Like, I could be still at home today trying to drive traffic to a website and struggling to get by and feeling like I was pushing my business and pushing everything, like pushing a bit of treacle up a hill. Instead, I found ways to run my business that are in my flow and that work for me. And when you're in your flow, it's like you do get into a sort of a slipstream. It's just like magic, opportunities come your way and things feel easy and effortless. And that's one of the things. So it's, and if it's not wealth dynamics, it's know yourself, know who you are, know what you like, know what you thrive on. If you're somebody that gets unhappy if you don't see people for 3 weeks, make sure that you don't plan to grow a business where you don't see people for 3 weeks. If you don't really love working with people one-to-one, because we're coaches, we start out being trained how to work one-to-one. But for some of us, we find that the one-to-one is not necessarily what lights us up fully. It's the group work. And so if you find that you're at your best in groups, well, build your business around group coaching work. You don't have to work one-to-one with people. So that's sort of like the first few things that I wanted to share. And in terms of me and how I got to this place, I think one of the things, the other thing is Nick wanted me to share with you 3 things, like three things that help you be successful growing a 6-figure business, but it's a little bit hard for me to narrow things down to 3. So I'll probably talk about more than 3, and then I'll just narrow them. I'll pick 3 at the end to narrow it down to, so that you can write 3 on your forms. And I'll go, right, those are the 3. So one of the things that for me, I think is really behind me growing the business to the level I have, is that I just had this absolute inner determination that I had to find work that I was happy with. So before I ran this business, Selling from the Heart, I'd worked in sales for nearly all of my life, hence it's called Selling from the Heart. I mean, what I do in my business is I work with people who've gone into business because they want to make a difference, so coaches and healers and other service-based businesses. But then they struggle to get clients because they're not comfortable with the sales and marketing. In particular, they're not comfortable with what they perceive to be hypey, sleazy, manipulative forms of sales and marketing. And I teach people how to get clients in a way that feels authentic and comfortable, but still allows you to grow a successful business. So my background was in sales. And I'd been in sales since I was 23 years old. First, I worked in the travel industry. That was a lot of fun. That, you know, young and irresponsible, working all over the world, getting cheap flights. I used to be able to go anywhere in the world I wanted for 10% of the price, as long as it wasn't Europe. Like, like, how great was that? That was not it was not a problem that I had to go to Australia for 10% of the price flight. And then I moved into the recruitment industry. And that was a really tough industry, really cutthroat, but I earned a lot of money. I was very good at what I did, and I earned a lot of money, and I got very trapped in this whole thing. You know, I had a flat in London and another flat on the seafront in Brighton and a sports car and the fancy holidays. I had all of the trappings, and I really got sort of trapped and caught by that. But actually, I was really, really deeply unfulfilled, and I was just desperately unhappy and desperate to find out what is it, the thing that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I explored lots of different things, but I didn't ever get brave enough to sort of take the leaps and go off and train in something. So I remember going and looking into coaching when I was about in my late 20s and going around the coaching schools at the time, and none of them were good enough at the time, but that's because Animas didn't exist yet. So luckily I did wait a little bit longer till I found the right school. And then when I got to my mid-30s, it just got so much. It was like there was this complete conflict between the money that I was earning, which I felt was giving me security. I was very scared to leave it. But like this internal feeling just rising and rising and rising, that I was just so unfulfilled and there was something else out there for me. And I went off on this journey to try and find out what it was I was meant to do. And I didn't start out training as a coach. I actually started out... I went to Africa. I did some youth work in Africa for a while. I then went to India. I spent a long time in India, about a year. I trained as a yoga teacher. I studied acupuncture and energy healing. I came back to the UK. I trained as a nutritionist, an NLP practitioner, a hypnotherapist, and then finally a coach. And it all sounds really glamorous, like, oh, you know, that was like a 5-year journey. Oh, that's all really glamorous and exciting, traveling all over the world. But the funny thing is, it was not a particularly happy time. I was desperately, desperately seeking, what is this thing I'm meant to be doing? And I just kept on not finding it. And even after I set up in business as a coach, when I started out as a coach, I was specialising in coaching women who were unfulfilled around the age of 40. Who else does that? Coaches themselves. And it was through that process that I started to discover what I do and what I don't like. And I know Carrie's going to talk later about niching, but any of you who are caught in that, do I niche, don't I niche, who do I niche with? It's like, don't try and figure it out with your head. Get out there and coach some people and find out, because I discovered that I wasn't really interested in coaching people about relationships. You know, very worthy, and relationships are very important, but it just didn't light me up. I found that there was nothing more boring than coaching someone about their career. There are some of you in the room who feel very passionate about career coaching. Was not for me. And gradually over time, I found more and more, oh, it's when these women who come to me, it's when they're in business that I get really excited. And that gradually evolved for me. And my business really started on the day that I plucked up the courage to ask the great Nick Bolton, who I was very scared of at the time, if I could possibly run a one-day workshop for the coaches at Animas to teach them how to sell. And I remember being on my way to that workshop thinking, oh, you know, why am I going? I haven't got anything to teach. What I do is such common sense. It's going to be awful. You know that feeling you have when you haven't really connected in with the value that you bring? You know, people had paid £47 to be there, and I just almost wanted to turn around and run home because I didn't think I had anything of value. And I walked out at the end of that day, and I went to meet Nick. He wasn't there on the day, but he was at a bar nearby having a drink with some of the other students. And I walked in and I said, this is it. This is it, my business. It's going to be called Selling from the Heart. And from that day, I have not wavered, I have not faltered. I love my business passionately, deeply. It's the most fulfilling thing. But I have been so determined to make this business work, like so determined. There's no faffing about. There's no, one of the things that I wrote, when some of you might have read the blog that I wrote, that Sarah interviewed me as part of the lead up to this process. And one of the things I talked about was the importance of focus. Because you leave your job and you decide to set up in business, and you've got this dream about you've got your own business, and suddenly your time is your own and you can do whatever you like. And now your friends invite you out for lunch, great, because you work for yourself, so you can go out for lunch every day of the week. Then you can go to yoga in the morning and then out to lunch, and then you can go and do a bit of shopping in the afternoon. And then you get to the end of the week and you're like, oh, what's happened to my business? And I think that sometimes I think it's easy to forget, like, yes, having your own business will take you to that point where you have got the freedom to decide what you do with your time. But if you don't actually knuckle down and get some work done in the early days, it ain't going to happen. And I think because I'd worked in the recruitment industry, which was a very tough industry, you know, it is whatever you hear about it, it's true. I would be at my desk in Holborn by 7:30 in the morning, at that desk, no breaks, unless we had client meetings, there were no breaks, quick lunch, sandwich at our desk maybe, and back to work right through till 8 o'clock at night. So I was almost like hardwired to focus in this way. And I do think that this ability to like almost this single-minded focus and determination that my business was going to work, because I didn't faff around a lot. So, and I don't mean don't have fun. I don't mean go home now and Catherine said, lock myself in the room and don't let myself out till my business is working. Because if you're not happy, it's not going to work either. It's got to be fun. You've got to be happy. It's got to be in flow. But do know that every afternoon that you take off to go for a long lunch and go to yoga is an afternoon that you're not doing something to grow your business, and have an awareness of that. And, you know, start running your business, even if you're at the very early stages and not a lot seems to be happening, start running your business with a bit of structure. So that if somebody does, you know, and plan your weeks out, and so that if a friend does call you up and to say go out for lunch, you can go, oh, well, on that day I've already planned to do this thing, but that's okay, I can go out for lunch, but I'll move that thing to another time and it will still get done. So focus. And the other thing that I know has been a part of my success has been the fact that I can sell. The sales piece. And I wasn't planning on talking about sales today, because that's not what specifically I was asked to do. Sales is what I teach through my business. And just for those of you who don't know me, the way my business runs is that it's called Selling from the Heart. And the way that I work with the majority of people who come in and work with me is through an online program. So I have an 8-week online program that I can deliver. I have people from all over the world on it. It's running at the moment. I run it once a year, so I have like an annual launch model. And I've got people in it at the moment, mostly in the UK, but in Australia, US, Canada, Europe. So people from all over the world that I can reach. And then I also run a business mentoring group. So I have, at the moment this year, 20 people in a business mentoring group. And so that's the business that I do. So at the sort of front end of what I do, although in the background it's business coaching and mentoring, at the front end it's really sales coaching. And the irony of this is that when I first started at Animas at the very beginning, I joined the mentoring group. And I know there is one currently, but it was very different 5 years ago. And I went along to have a meeting with Nick in his office to help me plan my business. And I think on that particular day, and I hadn't started my coaching training yet, I wanted to be a law of attraction coach. That was what I wanted to be. I was going to be a law of attraction coach. And Nick sort of chatted to me for a bit and looked at me and he said, what about sales coaching? I think you'd be a really good sales coach. No. Completely dismissed the idea. So I'm a sales coach now, which turned out he was spot on. I would have saved myself quite a little bit of seeking and searching if I had just listened to him in the first place. And this is the funny thing, that often the thing that you're meant to do, it's right on the end of your nose. Like, you're the only person who can't see it. There's something that you do that you are so brilliant at that it's like breathing for you. It's just your common sense. And everybody else struggles to do it. But because it's so obvious to you, you can't see it, you don't value it, you don't think it's important, and everyone else is around you is going, why don't you do this thing? Why don't you do this thing? And you're going, no, I want to change the world. But actually, what about this thing that you do? You could change the world. No, I want to go and change the world too, doing something completely different. I don't know what it is yet. So after a bit of a long journey, I found that I'm a sales coach. But actually, it's not just that I teach sales, it's that I can sell. So when I started in my business journey, like many of you, I didn't know much about marketing. So I had a sales career, but my sales career was sales. I mean, I was a really pretty hardcore salesperson, really. I just sold for a living. I didn't understand what went on behind the scenes in the businesses I worked for. I didn't understand the marketing. I was the salesperson. And so when I came to start my coaching business, I had to learn all about things like the concept of having a niche and how to capture client details and keep in touch with them, and all of the different forms of marketing and ways that there are to reach clients and attract clients. I had to learn all of that. And although it's what I teach now, that was stuff that I learned, but I came into business knowing how to sell. I came into business knowing that if I was at an event like this and I got chatting about what I do and somebody showed an interest in working with me, I knew how to guide them into the next stage of conversation. It didn't occur to me that somebody would not say yes to working with me if I believed I could help them. And it didn't occur to me that there was anything special about this either. And so because I'm so fortunate, I came into business with no stuff about sales. I didn't have negative beliefs about it. I didn't believe it was inherently evil or nasty or dirty. I didn't think, oh, I'm a nice person, so I couldn't possibly sell. I want to change people's lives, but I couldn't possibly sell to them before I do that. And I had this sort of 20-year career in sales. It means that business has been a lot easier for me than I know it is for other people, because one-to-one sales conversations flow. Usually when I'm speaking, I make an offer. I'm not doing that today, but usually if I'm invited to speak, as part of that speaking, I call people to action. I call people to join me, to work with me. I do that very comfortably, very congruently. I do it very, very well. I teach it as well. And so I do believe that part of my success in business and getting to where I've got to is because I know how to sell. I've got the sales piece nailed. And if you are someone who's got the sales piece nailed, it might be like me that you have to work out the marketing, because I didn't have the marketing and I had to learn the marketing. And you could be the most brilliant, transformative coach on the planet, like the best there has ever been. And if you don't know how to let people know you exist, and you don't know how to have a conversation, whether it's online, in a group or one-to-one, that gets people to say yes to working with you and actually pay you money to do that, you haven't got a business. But actually, for some of you, even more tragic than that, you haven't changed anybody's life. Like, you don't get to make a difference if people don't put their hand up and say, yes, I want to work with you. And so I would say that's quite an important one. And then I think the other big one, the really big one, probably the biggest one of all, is courage. Before I talk about courage, there's something that you don't need to grow a successful business, and that's confidence. You don't need any confidence to grow a successful business. It helps, because the more confidence you've got, the less sick you're going to feel some of the time. But as long as you've got courage, you can have as much fear and as little confidence as you like, and you'll still make it work. And courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is having the fear and going out and taking the action anyway. And when I look back, whenever people do ask me, what is it about you, Catherine? What is it that means that you have built this? Because I've got lots of friends. Some of my best friends still are the people that I met doing my training here at Animas. This community that you're all part of. I know that some of you know me, and I'm a familiar face, and you've known me for a few years. Other of you have never seen me before. But this community is my community. This is where I've sort of grown up. I did my training here. Some of my very best friends now are people I met here. 2 of my team, I've got a team of 4. There are 4 people who work for me. 2 of them were from Animas. I worked for Nick for 3 years. I ran all of the discovery days. This was my home. This was my family. And I was just talking to, forgotten his name. Was it Nick? Is your name Nick? Nathan. Sorry, I knew it was an N. Just talking to Nathan at the back, because he was saying, that I didn't do the discovery day that he joined. I stopped doing discovery days for Animas a year ago. And I was, in that last year I worked for Animas doing those discovery days, my business was already above 6-figure turnover business. And I kept on coming in and doing the discovery days for Animas. When I started out doing discovery days for Animas, they were a really key part of my income. I loved doing it, but I needed the money as well. But by the end, it was like Nick used to say to me, are you going to stop doing these? Surely you're going to stop doing these soon, because you don't need to do it. Isn't it time to go off and run your own business? And I used to go, yeah. But I didn't want to leave home. I was really scared to leave home. I was scared to leave my family and leave my community and leave this this world that I was so connected into. And I did finally leave home a year ago, and that's why for probably about half of you here, you haven't seen me before, because I grew up and I left home. But this community has been really important to me, and you know, this is one of the things that I would talk about is you can't do this alone. No matter what you think, you cannot grow your business on your own. You can't do it in isolation for so many reasons. But for many of you, even if you take away the practical, you can't do it alone on an emotional level. It's really, really tough sitting at home on your own trying to push a business up a hill. And even if all you've got is a sense of community and the people around you and the people who've gone through this journey together with you, you're in it together, you're sharing that path. You have a bad day, you can pick up the phone to somebody. You come to an event like this, you reconnect, you re-inspire each other. And so being part of a community, you know, you're so lucky when you do your training here because you get that community. And I know that there will be other coaching schools where you get trained and then you get shot out and you sort of got to find another way to stay part of that. So anyway, I'm diverting a little bit from the topic of courage. So, you know, a lot of people I trained with would be like, well, how do you do that? Because they might have businesses but not of the same size as mine. And when it comes right down to it and I really look at it, I think, what is the difference really? Like the difference, the big difference that makes the difference. And I think that even though I spend most of my life terrified, I do. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute because I think it's quite important that you know how scared I am most of the time. Even though I spend most of my life terrified, I get up and I do these things. God knows why, but I do these things and then I end up with a business. So one of the things that I do is I run a live event at the end of November and every year. So it's coming up now in about a month's time and it'll be the third time that I've run this particular live one-day event, but I also run other two-day events. I run trainings around selling from speaking and selling from webinars, all around how to sell your services. But this one-day live event is the really big day in my calendar because it's the day that I launch my business mentoring program, and I do all of my sales in one day. So this is really interesting about my business model because there's so many different ways to do it. But when I talk about having a six-figure business, 6 of those figures, that six-figure, the bulk of it gets done in one day at my event in November. So it's a huge thing to do, not just to go into that room to deliver the day and deliver the content and make sure that I'm keeping everybody happy, but to know that the next so many months or the rest of the year of my business is depending on the outcome of that day. And what usually happens in the lead up to that day is that I wake up every morning and I am so terrified and I feel so sick that I can't get out of bed. And I say to myself, why do I put myself through this? Like, why do I do this? And I go through the whole, why do I do it? It's so horrible, I'm so scared. And then somehow the day comes around and on the morning it comes around, I might not have slept very well, but somehow, you know, it's all arranged and people are waiting for me and I pack my little bag and I get all dressed up and I'm shaking in my shoes and I turn up and I'm quite bad-tempered actually on that day. I'm not normally bad-tempered, but on that morning I'm really quite bad-tempered. So the people that are there to help me, they're like... And then the people arrive and there's an introduction, like I got introduced and I walk up to the front of the room and that's it, boom, I'm away. And the mentoring group fills every year so far, it's sold out. And I then get to spend the rest of the year working with these amazing, amazing people who join me. And so I don't enjoy some of the things I do in my business. Some of them make me feel sick with fear, absolutely sick with fear. And I still do it because it's worth it. Like, it's worth doing those things that terrify me because the end result that I get and the work that I do, I love so much and it's so fulfilling. And I think that this is probably the thing that stops a lot of people like, oh, I need clients. Okay, so why don't you go networking? Oh, I can't go networking because I'm scared. I can't go networking because I might have to talk to somebody. What if someone actually wants to work with me and I have to have a sales conversation? You know, and there's all these things that you're scared of in your business. And it's like, it's okay. You can be scared and it can still work. You do have to sort of pretend not to be scared. I think that is one of the things if you can Be terrified, but find ways of pretending not to be. Robert can probably do this, like, learn your acting skills. And I think that is one thing that I can do. I'm good at acting as if. I'm good at putting on a quite composed front, even when I'm terrified inside. And the courage thing is why, there's no point thinking, I'm really scared of this. And you might not always recognize you're scared. This is what procrastination is. This is what, when somebody tells you what you could do in your business, you go, yeah, but I can't because, yeah, but I can't because. Some of you do a lot of that. I know I used to do a lot of that. All the yeah, buts and the procrastination, this is your fear. And it's tempting to think, yeah, but. So I might say, why don't you run an online program? Yeah, but I can't do that yet because I'm not confident. And some of you are waiting to be confident before you go and do the thing. And it's not going to happen. You're not going to get confident by doing nothing. The place where your confidence is on the other side of that courage and that fear. Like your confidence is on the other side of the fear. And although I talk about being terrified of my live event in November, I am scared right now because it's less than 4 weeks away. But I know that I'm not going to be as scared this year as I was last year. And actually last year I wasn't quite as scared as I was the year before. Some of the people who work with me, one of them was saying to me yesterday, she was laughing at me, she said, that first one you did, I've never seen you as scared. Like, I've never seen you as scared. I don't know how you actually did it. And each time I'm a little bit less scared. And actually today, so there was a day when I gave my very first talk in front of a room full of people, and it was here, it was my very first discovery day, and there were 4 people there. Is anyone here today that was at that one? Because I know that, okay, so it's only 4, so that there might have been, there might not have been. There was 4 people. I was shaking so much that I was sweating through that whole day. I have never been so terrified as delivering that discovery day on my own. Nick had left me to do it all on my own, and I was supposed to sell stuff. I was supposed to sell places on the course. But I wasn't nervous today at all, interestingly. I wasn't at all nervous today to come and talk to you guys. But this is because I speak a lot in my business now. And so if I hadn't had the courage to do a discovery day for Nick, to that 4 people when I was terrified, if I hadn't had the courage to do my first live event, I would never have got to the point where I could come and talk to you and not be nervous. Do you see? And I think that's a really important message to take away. The fear is not... And also I think that the more you're on purpose in your life, like the more on track you are, the more on mission, the more scared you're going to be. And I don't really know quite why that is, but I think that when we're really on purpose, all of our fear and our not good enough and all of that stuff just sort of rises up to stop us. And that's how you know you're on track. Like, you know that you're on the right path because you are so scared of it. And this is why I said, you know, when I left my job, I went off to India and trained as a yoga teacher, and then I came home and I trained as a nutritionist. All I wanted to be was a coach. I was too scared to be a coach. It was easier to go and enroll in the things that I didn't really want to do. And I think really those are my main messages. There was more than 3. Who can distill what I've just said into 3 key points so that I've done my job? Anyone want to give it a go? Yeah, what were they?
It's do what you love,
Yeah.
know yourself, and don't do it alone.
Yep, do what you love, know yourself, and don't do it alone. And the do what you love, I think that's what I'll end up on. This is about doing what you love. Like, I love what I do, and I feel that I've got quite a big mission. And I know what a difference my work makes to people. Like, I don't just help business owners sell more stuff and get more clients. I transform their lives. I change their lives because of the knock-on effects that has. And I get frustrated because of the small numbers of people that I work with. So at the moment, I've got about 112 people going through my program. And I'm frustrated because that's small. And I want to reach thousands every year. And that's me. That's my mission, that's my path, and that's why it's fulfilling for me. But some of you, if you were to wake up tomorrow in my life, some of you would not enjoy my business. You would find it too complex. You'd find it had too many moving parts. You wouldn't enjoy a lot of the online stuff that I do, because although I don't do online marketing, I do run a lot of my business I run online. So a lot of you wouldn't be happy with that. You would want a completely different sort of business. And like I said before, it's about doing what you love, and doing what you love might not mean a six-figure business. So great that Nick asked me to come and talk on that topic. And I'm really proud to be one of the success stories, because it all came from here. You know, this is where I learned as a coach, this is where I first learned how to grow a business. But at the same time, I want to impress on you that this is like not the be-all and the end-all to have a business of that size. And yeah, just one thing that I'd meant to say that I didn't was just like, how do you create a six-figure business? Because there's lots of different ways of cutting it. So I have an online program that I sell. It's about £500. I have people going through that in large volumes. And then I have a business mentoring program that's got 2 levels, £5,000 and £10,000. That's how mine is made up. You could have a six-figure coaching business by bringing on 10 clients every year that pay you £10,000. You could have a six-figure coaching business by bringing on 2 clients every year who pay you £50,000 each. You could have a six-figure coaching business if you had a online group coaching program for £1,000 and you sold 10 of those every month. So there's lots of different ways, and so my business is quite complex because I have the online program and the mentoring group and lots of live events that are included and lots of online training that I deliver. I have a quite complex business. I have a lot of software in the background that I pay for. I have a team of 4 part-time freelancers who work for me. My business is complex because that's my path, that's my journey, that's what I'm meant to be doing. And your business, you could do the same turnover that I do with a very simple business, either just you on your own or you with 1 part-time PA. There's so many different ways of cutting it, and your business model that you follow will depend on... I'm sitting in the worst place as well. That's okay, because that's perfect timing, because I'm supposed to be finishing right now. So that was my closing bell, and Karen probably carefully arranged that so that I had a closing bell to make sure that I don't go on for too long. So then what I'm here for now is that was my sort of 3 things that you need to do to have a successful six-figure business. And now I've got a little bit of time before the next person to just take questions. And this is where, if you want to know more about the how, or if you want to know more about my journey, or you want to know anything, I will just be here to answer some questions for you. And there's a lady here in turquoise straight away. And we're going to bring you the microphones, by the way, so that we can all hear you.
How did you come to pick your business model?
Okay. I didn't. I was. This is part of the thread when it comes to don't do it alone, because one of the other things I would recommend, if you're really serious about your business and getting it right, is don't try and figure it out on your own. I worked with business mentors, and I know that is what has made the big difference for me, that I've always had a business mentor to guide me. I didn't pick my own business model. It was a mentor of mine who I joined who set me off on that track, who said, Catherine, this is what you should be doing next. So there was 2 mentors, actually. So the first mentor, at the point that I started having mentoring, I already had a workshop that I ran. So the stuff that I teach in my online program, it was already a workshop. I was running 1-day workshops here and there. I was making a little bit of money, but not enough to, not enough to actually make a viable business from. And it was a real struggle to fill these workshops. And any of you who run workshops, you know how difficult it is just to get the bums on the seats in the workshop in the first place. And so it was a business mentor of mine who said, Catherine, what you need to do is you need to take that online program. So you need to take that 1-day workshop and you need to turn it into an online program. And do you know what I said? Yeah, but all the reasons I couldn't possibly do it. No, because I'm a people person. I like having live workshops. I couldn't possibly do online. I'd never work out the technology. I spent a reasonable amount of money to get advice from that lady. And she gave me that same advice every month for 5 months. before I finally had a talk to myself that went a little bit like, Catherine, are things really working for you your way right now? No. Well, have you really got anything to lose if you do what she says? No. And this was one of those places of courage. So where I talk about courage, there are some really key, like, fear mountains, if you like, that I had to leap over. And that was one of them, me taking my work online when I really am rubbish with anything to do with technology. So the online program got created in 2012, and I finished working with that mentor that year, and I started with another with a new mentor in 2013, and it was him who had me do the model where I run the online program, and then I include a ticket to a one-day workshop as a bonus. So when somebody buys the online program, they get a free ticket to a one-day live event, and it's at that event that I sell the next level of program, and it just. It's the perfect model for me. It works perfectly for me. It wouldn't work for all of you. Running an annual launch model is very intensive. It means that in September every year, I pretty much, all my family and friends know it's like, I'm gone. You know, this is my launch. September, I just head down and I work. And September, October, November are very, very, very busy months for me. Very busy. I work harder in those months than a lot of people would ever want to work. And then in the summer, I take July and August off. You know, I have a very slow and easy summer. So, and that model works for me because I'm a very all or nothing person. I've learned this about myself. Balance, it's not really something that I really get a handle on, and I don't think it suits me either. I'm an all or nothing girl. I either want to be working flat out or laying on my back on a beach in Bali. I don't really do very well with the in-between bit. So yes, that's how I came up with my model. I didn't come up with it. It was a mentor that put. And this is the thing that, even with all the business knowledge you have, and even though I'm a business mentor now and I mentor other people around their business, it's often hard for us to see what we need to do next. So no matter who you are, even if you are a business coach yourself, you still need the eyes of another. You need someone else's eyes on your business to show, and also to show you your blind spots. Because what happens is that your business coach or mentor says something to you that sounds a bit like, I really think you should fly to the moon on Tuesday. And you go, yeah, but I can't go to the moon on Tuesday. Yeah, but I haven't got the right clothes. Yeah, but I don't know how to get there. But I can't afford the ticket, because you can't see that. And when your business coach says, you know, like me, you should take that onto an online program, you just go, no way, I can't do that. It's impossible. But they can see so clearly, like, who you are and what the next step is for you. So thank you. Great question. One over there.
Sorry, I don't have a question, and it's a bit detailed, but
Yeah.
if you're putting so much energy into this one-day live event,
Yeah.
it's really important that the people in the room are the right people,
Yeah.
that they really are your target group, and that there's a very high potential that they're going to follow through and go on to the next step.
Yes.
So how do you know, or how do you make sure that those people that you've got in the room are the right people?
The majority of them have just done an 8-week online course with me. And so how I see it is, they've just gone through the 8-week online program with me. If they know me, like how I see it, the way I'm going to phrase it's going to sound a bit weird, but hopefully it won't come out the wrong way. But like during that 8-week period, the clients that are the right client for me sort of fall in love with me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like they're like, yeah, we love her. We love what she teaches. It makes sense. I want more of that. And that's why they're in the room. So there are people who go through that 8-week online course who don't come to the live event because they're like, yeah, that was good. But I haven't fallen in love so much that I'm going to give up my Saturday and go and hear more from her. So what happens is that the people who end up in the room they're like, first of all, they came to a webinar. They were interested enough in what I do to come to a webinar. And on the webinar, they bought the online program. They went through the online program. They've worked with me intensively for 8 weeks, and then they come into that live room. So there's a number of different points. So it is, you're absolutely right. It's a quite carefully sort of funneled thing, because if I just went, you know, if I just turned up here today and sold you all a ticket to my event and you came along in November, most of you wouldn't be ready to take the leap to invest with me at the next level for a whole 12-month period. And so for me personally, the online program before the next level is an important part of my process. Doesn't mean I can't do it other ways. People do join me at that level without having gone through the program. But actually what I'm learning is that doesn't always work very well either. So, you know, sometimes it's the people who join me for mentoring that haven't done any work with me beforehand are the ones that I end up thinking, oh, I don't know if I should have taken you on, you know, because we didn't have the relationship, we didn't know each other. It's a two-way process. That's the thing in business. It's a two-way process. You don't want clients at any cost just because you need money. It's got to be, you've got to love working with them just as much as they love working with you. And this is one of the things that you learn as well in businesses. There's a quote, Steve Jobs said it, that 90% of success in business is knowing what to say no to. And that includes saying no to the wrong clients. And because the wrong clients can really knock your confidence apart from anything else. So thank you. Any more questions? Yes, one there. I've got one lady behind you, then we can come to you.
What kind of technical support do you have in your business?
Okay. Well, I've got the technical support I've got now, and I've got the technical support I had at the beginning, and they're very different. So technical support at the beginning was me trying to figure things out. And it's not my strong area at all. And I just used to allow lots of time because I'm not naturally technical. It doesn't make me happy, the technical bits in my business. So when I first started out, like for example, when I had to develop my first online program and run webinars and all of that, I just scheduled a lot of time. I blocked a lot of time out so that I could really take my time and learn it properly. But for me, the technical was the first thing I outsourced. And when I talked before about wealth dynamics and understanding your strengths and weaknesses in business, there are some tasks you do in your business that just make you really unhappy. They're always, you know, there's just the reality of it. Because when you start out, you have to do everything. The stuff that makes you unhappy is the stuff you should outsource first. And so for me, I have never outsourced my sales because I love everything about sales, the sales process. I love creating the connection with the client as part of the process. But I don't like the technology. And so now, you know, my business last year, the turnover was 150,000. And I don't know exactly what it will be this year because a lot of it's dependent on what happens in November. Is that now I have technical support within my business. So I have 2 technical people. I have what I call my technical VA. So I have a customer service PA, who is the person that people interact with if they're actually in my programs. I then have a technical VA who does all of the techie detailed stuff. You know, the stuff that when you're a bit like me, you just end up going, "Ugh." I have someone who does all that stuff for me. And then I've got a senior technical person who does, I have a system called Infusionsoft to manage all of my client details. It's a bit of a monster, and it's something that, you know, a lot of bigger businesses have. It's a bit of a scary thing, and it's very, very, very technical. A lot of people call it Confusionsoft. So I have a more senior, and I don't touch it because it's not a good idea for me to even touch it. So I've got a senior person who looks after that, and he does things like websites and web build and HTML, and so it's wonderful. And for me, this is one of the reasons why it suits me to have a bigger business with a higher turnover, because I can then pay people to do work for me. But there's a whole level in having staff, and it's not for everybody because it's got its own challenges. And actually, one of the best things about having a business of the size I have is I get to outsource the things I don't like. One of the worst things about it is I have to manage a team of people. So it's really interesting sort of dilemma there. So this lady here in the lilac scarf, oops, sorry, hit the microphone.
I'm just wondering, you talked a lot about mentors. How have you found the right ones at the right time?
How have I found the right mentor at the right time? I think there is something about being on the right path in life, and when you get on that right path in life, the right things start happening and start coming your way. So I didn't find my mentors. I didn't go out and look for them. The first mentor I worked with, I went to a conference and she was a speaker, and she said a lot of very sensible things that I'd never heard before. And I was struggling to build my business online, and I was struggling with a lot of things I'd heard from a lot of male teachers, and she was the first female business speaker who had really made sense to me, and so I worked with her. The second mentor I worked with was much more by chance. I was that first mentor, and actually no secret, and the first mentor was Joanna Martin. The second mentor was a guy called Nick James. Joanna Martin stopped mentoring to go and have a baby, and I was like, I she's got me a certain way, but I still don't really know what I'm doing. And I came across a sales page for a mentoring program written by a guy who I really didn't know, wasn't following, read it, it just made sense to me. It just happened to be that he came along at exactly the right time for me. I had a conversation with him and I took the leap, and it was possibly not the wisest move in one respect, because I didn't really know very much about him, and it could have been a disaster in hindsight, but I was lucky because he was perfect for me at that time, and it was with him as my mentor that I went from 7,000 to 120,000 in 1 year. And interestingly, this year, 2015, I haven't been working with a mentor, even though I believe in it so wholeheartedly, because I couldn't find the right one for me. Now that it's what you need when you're starting out and going from like 5,000 to your first 40,000 or to your first 100,000, what you need then is completely different to what you need when you're above the six figures, because the challenges, the sales and marketing for me are not really an issue. I've got them nailed, and the challenges for me now are more around team and infrastructure and growing the business. And I've taken a year where I've been unable to identify the right person, and I found her now. So 2016 I shall be. So yeah, and it is a process. Because it's a relationship match, and it's a process. And what happens is you might follow somebody for a while, and you might come across somebody and sign up to be on their mailing list and start going to their webinars, start going to their workshops, start going to their talks, and follow somebody for a while before you get that feeling. Yes, and of course you within Animas, you've got a mentoring program within Animas. So if you like Nick, and you know that Nick gets you and gets your business, I know that there's quite a number of you that actually work with Nick as your mentor. So for some of you, he's going to be your first port of call for a business mentoring group around a coaching business. I don't know what he calls it, a mastermind mentoring, but I know that there's a mentoring group within Animas, isn't there, Karen? Yeah. Any more? Yes, this lady here. I think I've got time for 2 more questions, so I can take you and then 1 more, and then you. Yeah.
Hi, Catherine. You spoke earlier about the fact that you have a large part of your business is online, and that you don't necessarily do your marketing online. So can you sort of say a little bit more about your marketing and how you get people onto your courses initially?
Yeah.
Doing like a webinar. So how do you kind of get the traffic through?
Yeah. So this is a great question, and I don't want to seem critical of online marketing. This is not where I'm coming from at all, but I really want people to look with open eyes at what is available out there and what really works in marketing, because the truth is that a lot of the people who are online selling you marketing training are the online marketers, and it's very easy to believe that some of that stuff is the stuff that works that you have to do. And I'm actually really proud of the fact that I've got my business to 150,000 a year turnover without doing social media marketing, without doing blogging in order to grow my business, without doing SEO or driving traffic to my website. The online piece of my business is the fact that I run my program online and I sell it online through webinars. But the webinars are not the marketing tool, the webinars are the sales tool. When I say I don't do social media, if you go and you check me out, you'll find out that there is a little bit of activity here and there. And that's because for this campaign this year, I started experimenting with Facebook advertising. I hired an agency to do it for me. I want you all to know that it bombed completely. So Facebook advertising is also not the holy grail, even though it works very well for a lot of people. But as part of that, I needed to get my Facebook page looking a bit more active. So if you do go and look at me online now, you will find that I look like I'm doing stuff. And it's my technical VA does all of that for me. But actually, I don't get any clients from it. And it's a very new thing. It was part of getting my profile ready for the Facebook advertising campaign. So to answer the question, where the people actually come from, being a star profile in Wealth Dynamics, I have a lot of blaze energy. I'm in my flow when I'm interacting and connecting with people. So my marketing is speaking and joint ventures. And joint ventures, it's a bit of an off-putting term, really. So there's another word for it, which is collaborating. I collaborate with other people. So I might meet you. I know we don't know each other. I don't know what you do, but we might meet and we might find that we've got a client base in common. Like you might. So for example, one of the people who I collaborate with regularly is a lady called Suzanne Dibble, who runs the Small Business Legal Academy. She helps small businesses put their legals in place. So she's got her client list is full of small business owners. And I teach small business owners how to sell. And so Suzanne and I cross, she'll promote my stuff and I'll promote her stuff. And I've grown my business entirely through joint ventures and collaborations. That's my main marketing strategy. And I would say to any of you starting out, please don't confuse yourself by thinking that you have to follow every marketing strategy. It's far more powerful to do just one or maybe two and do it really, really well, rather than try and do 7 different marketing strategies and you can't do them well because you're spread too thin. You are not Coca-Cola. You haven't got a multi-million-pound budget. You haven't got a team full of people. It's just you. Find 1 or 2 marketing techniques that do work for you, and it might be online marketing for you. It might be social media or blogging or Facebook ads, but it might be that it's speaking or networking or collaborations. And so my marketing is it's the people stuff. It's the networking, the making a connection, the collaborating, the cross-promoting, the being invited to speak. This today is me marketing. Yeah, so I'm not selling anything. And I'm also part of the Animas community, so I'd be here anyway. But the truth is that there's now a room full of 100 and something people who now have got a deeper sense of who I am and what I do. So so that's what I do instead of online marketing, because online marketing makes me cry. Yeah. Oh, so who did I say I'd go to? It was you.
That was my question.
Same question. Okay, great. And then I'll just take one more, and then I'm supposed to get off the stage. Where's Karen gone? She's not looking cross anywhere.
So thank you so much for this amazing talk.
Oh, you're
When
welcome.
you said
Thank
you
you.
had that one day in November, how did you start out with that? What was it like when you first began?
Terrifying.
Other than terrifying, the practicalities.
Well, for me, I think you're asking one question, so I'm going to answer 2 ways. So the live event that I do in November, my annual live event, that came about by including a free ticket to that event to all the people who did my online program. So in a way, it was quite easy. So the first time I ran it, I had 70 people there, because I'd had 80 people going through my online program that year. They all got a free ticket, and 70 out of the 80 came, which was pretty amazing, actually. So strangely enough, it was quite easy to fill it. What was harder for me was when I started at the very, very beginning and I was just trying to run little workshops. That was actually harder for me to fill those little workshops, and I did those through collaborations. So the first one I did was a collaboration with Nick Bolton, because when I went to him and said, would you let me run a workshop for your coaches? He said, yes, I'll fill the room because I've got the list and you pay me half the profit. So Nick got the coaches into the room. They all paid £47. After the cost of the room hire, we split. And then I did the same thing. I was living in Brighton at the time. I collaborated with an acupuncture clinic there, and they sent about 20 of their acupuncturists. And again, we did the same thing. We split the profit. So that my early workshops were also collaborations. This is because I'm a people person, so collaborations are what work well for me. So thank you very much, everyone. I think I have to go now.